All right, mic check, I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron and we have another fantastic episode for you guys that are listening. Today we have Nicole Leclair coming into us from out east. She is a fantastic lady who has a lot of cool projects on the go. So hello Nicole, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here today. Virtually.
Yeah, virtually. We're virtualizing, I guess, which is the way we do it now. And you know, it's been working fine. So Nicole, today's been crazy.
Well, today's just starting. It's only going to get crazier.
Yeah, no, it's been good. We're both running around with our heads cut off. But, you know, the nice thing is that at least on my end, I have all the gear worked out because the last show I recorded, my gear was buzzing out on me. But I feel like at least I got it together so far today.
Technology, eh? When it works, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. So, Nicole, where are you calling in from?
From Burlington, Ontario.
Burlington, Ontario, and what's...
Yeah, that's where I've called home for, about the past 18 years or so.
18 years. So where were you born?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Ottawa, Ontario.
In Ottawa. And I've been to Ottawa, but I've never been to Burlington. Is Burlington a nice town?
It is. It's very scenic. Nowhere is too far within Burlington, and we have a beautiful downtown area, overlooking Lake Ontario. It's very scenic. I like it. I like to hear a lot of all the places I've lived and moved around for school and work and stuff. I'm really happy where I wound up.
Awesome. So you're growing up in Ottawa, and young Nicole is going to school. How'd you like school? Were you good at school?
I'd say I was just an average student. I didn't love school. I didn't love high school. Unlike a lot of my friends, I didn't really know what I wanted to be, quote unquote, when I grew up. Mm-hmm. So, I was probably a little bit more lost than some of my other friends who knew what they wanted to do and knew what universities they wanted to go to. And that was not the case for me at all.
No, what did you do as soon as you graduated high school? Did you go pick up a job or just kind of float around?
Well, right after high school, I actually went to university. I went to Carleton University in Ottawa just because that's what all my friends were doing and that's what seemed to be expected of me. And I think my parents didn't want me just sitting around the house. So that's what I did. And I only lasted a few months and I just hated it there. Like I thought, what is this for? Sitting in a psychology class, I think I just signed up for like a Bachelor of Arts honors or some sort of generic thing. Mm-hmm. And sitting there having that aha moment in a psychology class, just going, okay, so what happens if I graduate from this 4-year program? What am I going to do?
The rest of your life.
What's my job going to be? And I just sort of, I don't know if I panicked. I just dropped out because I thought, well, whatever my job's going to be, it's not going to be something related to this. So I just dropped out and worked a part-time job for a while, earned some money, bought my first car, tried to figure out life. And the expression about if you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. And I thought of that and I thought, well, what do I love? What am I good at? I better figure this out. So I did think of the trades because I always loved working with my hands and fixing things. And
so where did you find an avenue in your life as a young girl where you got to experience that? How did you figure out that you love to work with your hands? Like, was your dad or your mom in the trades or?
Well, yeah, both of my parents were pretty handy. I mean, I grew up almost my whole life with a family cottage, so there was always something to do and work on and fix and mow the lawn and mm-hmm. all this sort of thing. And, my dad, he built our cottage. He was very handy, but his main job was as an executive at a company. So he went to work every day in a suit and tie, and then traveled a lot for work as well. And so I was, spend a lot of time with my mom, who was a stay-at-home mom. She used to be a nurse, but raising her children, stayed at home, with my mom, who had to do a lot of stuff around the house, because my dad just wasn't there. So she would mow the lawn and change the fuses and, do handy things. And
Mm-hmm.
so really, even though my mom was a stay-at-home mom, I had really great leadership from both my parents in the sense of, being able to be handy and doing things and watching and learning. And I was just someone who always posed the question, well, why does it work that way? And why does this happen when this button is pressed, or whatever the case may be? And I always wanted to learn how and why. So that was just something that was in me, even as a child, I guess, and tried to tap into some of those likes of mine, once I got to university age, to see if I could actually have a job that could relate to some of my own handiwork.
And that's totally relatable. Like when I finished high school, I went straight to university because that was like the thing to do, right? And I took computer science right out of school because I loved building electronics and working with my hands my whole life. I was really handy. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to go to university, I should do something that kind of ties the two together. And I thought in my mind, like, build robots. I could do something with computers. But it was just like you. When I got to class and I'm sitting there and it's 3-hour lectures and people are droning on, I just couldn't handle that. Like, it was really, really hard to sit there. I'm too antsy, too hyper. And, I ended up going to university for 6 years, and I finished a philosophy degree. So that was that's
Wow.
a whole nother story of Max's life.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, but then as soon as I finished, like I got out of university, what I did is I went into welding because my dad was a welder. So because let me tell you, university degrees don't pay the bills. Like, they really don't.
Yeah. Oh, and that's interesting to know that your dad was a welder. A lot of people ask me if someone in my family was a welder and figured that that might be how I got into it. But no, my brother, my dad, uncles, nobody that I knew of was a welder. It was really just something that I got into on my own after thinking of the trades. And then I kind of broke down the trades that I didn't want to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought of electricians and plumbers, but there was something a little more interesting about welding to me. So what I did, having grown up in Ottawa, I took a night class. So I think there's a lot to be said for continuing education classes, because that's what I did. I went to Algonquin College in Ottawa, took a night class in oxy-fuel welding, and so that really just, I hate to say, sparked my interest in welding, quite literally. And so I enjoyed it so much that I basically dropped everything and I moved to Sudbury, where I did my welder fitter program at Cambrian College. And it was that continuing education class that got me to take it full time. And so I did the welder fitter program at Cambrian, and that was a 1-year program at the time. So just moved up north and spent a year of my life doing that. I got my all position stick ticket there and just did a lot of welding and learned even more about, the theory of welding and all that. And miraculously, I became a really great student. So what was an average student in high school, I became a top student in college because I was doing something I really did thoroughly enjoy. And even the math, right? It made sense because you were applying mathematical equations to something that you could relate to.
Well, that's the thing, when you go back to school and you see the connections, right? You can make the connections between what you're learning and what you're going to be doing at work. It's now valuable. Like, you can see it and be like, okay, this makes sense because, I'm glad I'm learning this because this will actually help me. I took a course about 3 years ago about becoming a better business person, like one of these like self-help business courses. And the guy actually made a really good point because he said, if you learn something and while you're sitting in front of the teacher learning it, you're not thinking about where you can use it, you're going to forget it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's true because when I'm in an interesting course and I'm learning something, I'm in the back of my mind being like, oh, cool, I'm going to do that there. Or with welding, like watching a video of some guy doing a cool up hand and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go try that. If you're already thinking about it, you're going to definitely remember it and you're going to learn it. But if you're learning something and you're thinking about the groceries or did I leave the stove on or, what am I doing tonight for supper, then you know what? It's gone. You're not going to remember it.
Agreed.
So you went through the weld fab course, which is interesting. In Regina, we just started doing weld fab in our college. It's been in Saskatchewan for years, but we just started doing it in our college, and we find it interesting to see how the students branch out afterwards, if they go the weld route or the fabricator route. I myself have my red seal in both welding and in steel fab, so I love both sides of that coin. Which one did you like better coming out of the weld fab course at Algonquin?
Well, Algonquin was just the oxy-fuel class. That was the night
Oh,
class.
right. Sorry.
And
So,
then Cambrian College was the welder fitter program. And what happened, what I wound up doing after that was because I had graduated second highest out of my class out of 65 people. It was a pretty big group. They separated us into two. And I have to give Gerald at Cambrian College a million thanks because he came to me and actually said, hey, you're pretty good at this. Have you thought about welding engineering technology? And I was like, no, I didn't know that that course existed because at the time and still today, it is only offered at two colleges in Ontario, at Northern College in Kirkland Lake
yeah.
and at Conestoga College. At the time, it was the Guelph campus that I attended. So he opened my eyes to that. I did some research. It was a 3-year program. So I thought, gosh, I don't know, that's a lot to take on. But because I was loving it so much, I was like, hey, why not? I looked into it, and because I had taken the welder fitter program, I just had a couple other little small courses to make up for, and I was able to do the 3-year program in 2 years because they gave me a lot of exemptions having taken the welder fitter program. So I jumped into that, and then I did the 3-year welding engineering technology program. Because I figured, if once you get into, having a full-time job, you're probably not going to stop and go back to being a full-time student again necessarily. I mean, it happens, but knowing myself, I thought, oh, I'm in it now. I might as well just keep going, keep getting educated in my field of choice. So then I went to Conestoga College and pursued that.
I didn't even know about the Welding Technologies course coming from Saskatchewan. Like you said, it's only offered in two colleges in Canada, and I've ran into students and also instructors of that program now in my career, and it's awesome. It's an awesome course. Like you come out with inspection. I believe your level 1 inspection ticket, and then some basic welding, and it seems like a very well-rounded course for a student to have going out into the field. Is very applicable to getting a job.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. But you know what? When you said it wasn't available in Canada, I didn't know that. I thought it was just in Ontario it was offered at two colleges, but I didn't realize it was only two colleges in Canada.
It's like all. So it's really nowhere else. We've looked into maybe trying to set one up here in Saskatchewan because we think it's an awesome program. And basically in our vision of trying to set up a welding technologies course, we ended up developing a new course called Innovative Manufacturing, which now mixes welding with machining, which is kind of, the way the future is going, where employers are looking to hire people with more than just one set of skills. So instead of trying to step on the toes of another program, we kind of created our own, and they're super valuable. Everybody that I know who's gone through that technologies program, they're so knowledgeable. They're getting really good training.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree. I mean, we covered so many things, metallurgy and inspection and robotics and just deeper metallurgy into various types of parent metals. And yeah, it was very interesting. And it equipped us all to get a really great job after graduation. And in that graduating class was only 14 of us. So it's a smaller group. And I can't speak for us all, but I would say the majority anyways of us all had jobs before graduation, obviously contingent on the fact that we would graduate.
Yeah.
And I know for myself as well, I began working for a welding distributor after graduation. And yeah, I had the offer of intent to hire based on the fact that I would graduate. So then I wound up working for a distributor for about 14 and a half years afterwards, just getting so much cool experience, because I feel like by being a territory manager and looking after so many clients over a wide geography, that I felt like I was on 100 companies payrolls.
Yeah,
I got to see how so many things were made and help them out with various processes, that it was just an amazing experience to be able to not just focus on one thing and work at one get a really broad view of what the manufacturing world was like.
Well, as a distributor manager, you're going to be part of the problem-solving team for pretty much any project that comes up, right? You're going to be looking at welding, filling, consumables, requirements,
Yeah, machines, gases,
everything,
you
right?
name it. We were usually always someone on their go-to list of who they would look to for help to make sure that they were set up with the right application and process and equipment and shielding gas and whatnot. So
And I
yeah,
know,
it was a good experience. But what I enjoyed the most from that whole experience was educating the customer and leaving the customer site knowing that they were better off for having had me visit that day. And I just felt a lot of I don't know, fulfillment, I guess is the word, just to know that, all that education I wound up getting was actually paying off and I could share it with clients. And that was what I enjoyed the most, was the education aspect of it. So I thought, wow, I'd really like to investigate to see whether, that's something that I could do and change careers. So yeah, I knew that having the welding engineering technology, I was told anyways, when I was in school, that having that would be enough to deem me, applicable to be a teacher at the college level. So I pursued it, and I just sort of contacted randomly my associate dean at a nearby college, and just wanted to sit down and have a chat with him. It wasn't a job interview. I just wanted to sit and ask him, like, so what's a day in the life like for you? And just to get a feel for if I thought he was going to describe something that I might like. And having went for that conversation, which I thought we were just having a chit chat, I wound up getting a letter of intent to hire from them. So that was a pretty cool experience. I was in a job interview and didn't know it. And yeah, so I thought, well, why not? So started with just a few hours per week and then loved it and wanted more and more. So then I wound up branching out to another college. And then I've even done some product development work for a third college. So yeah, it's kept me busy.
so you were 14 years in a job. Like, that's a long time in today's world. You must have really liked it there.
Well, it was all right. But like it was dwindling for me as time went
Yeah.
on too, right? Because like I said, I figured out what I liked the most about the job, but unfortunately, in that type of a territory sales, territory manager type job, there's a lot of other stuff that's incorporated in that type of job that you're not really enjoying doing.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
customers are behind on payment or worrying about machines out for repair or one
Did,
thing or another, and I'm like, this is not what I went to school for. I want
did
to.
you
I,
did you ever have to go out and break any legs?
Once, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You had to go.
we did a
You
we
had to
did
go
a
collect.
repo
Yeah.
call. We did a repo call somewhere once, but no baseball bats, no legs were broken, but we did have to take a few machines back. Yeah.
Yeah. You always wonder about that. Like, I mean, it never feels good to owe somebody money.
Yeah, so anyway, all those types of aspects of the job, like it wasn't doing it for me, and I thought, well, why not spend the majority of your time doing that small thing that you love
That
in
you
your
really
current
like. Yeah.
job? So
All right. Well, this is a
anyway,
perfect
life
time
is short.
This is the perfect time for the break. We're at about 17 minutes here, so the conversation's just rolling here, guys. This is awesome. This is Nicole. So we'll be right back on the CWB Association podcast after our sponsors' commercials.
The CWB Association membership is new, improved, and focused on you. The CWB Association is offering a free membership with a full suite of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Become a member today. Register at cwbassociation.org.
All right, and we're back here on the CWB Association podcast. I'm Max Ceron. Thanks for tuning in. We have Nicole Leclair coming in from, where was Burlington, Ontario again, and she's telling us her story. Where we ended off, she had just walked into a college and apparently got hired on the spot. So, I mean, that's awesome. Now, your first teaching gigs, what were you teaching? Were you just, the oxy-fuel courses, or were you right into like the heavy stuff?
Well, no, just for the first class that I taught, it was actually, I remember this because why wouldn't you remember your first teaching class, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the welding component to a first-year plumber's apprenticeship, and that is where they do a lot of oxy-fuel. So it was kind of ironic when you think about it.
I'm doing the plumbers this week right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so we here anyways, yeah, we're just follow the Ontario College of Trades guidelines of what they need to know for their first year, and yeah, a lot of oxy-fuel cutting and welding, and anyway, so that's what I taught them, and having come from a gas distributor that also manufactured gas, I was very familiar with the cylinders, safety cylinder operation of them and whatnot. So yeah, that was my first class,
So
and
how long did it take for you to get from, and for anyone that out there that's listening that wants to become a teacher, it's sometimes a very long, tedious process. Now, some people are lucky and move in quick, but some people takes years, if not decades, of working part-time gigs to get that seniority up. So, Nicole, how long did it take for you to get into a full-time spot?
I'm actually not full time,
Yeah.
which allows me to work at the multiple places that I've had jobs at over the past few years. So I've been at one college for about a little over 4 years, I guess it is, and then at a second college for 1 year, and then for about 6 months I've done product development for a third college. So yeah, I kind of like being able to
Float around, yeah.
yeah.
I'm in the
I
exact same boat as you. I'm not. I've been almost 7 years at my college now, but I'm still not full time. I'm contract based, so that gives me the opportunity to do my international work that I do overseas. That I work for CWB on the side. I do lots of other gigs, and I still have my company. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was tied down to one full time contract. So, we have that same in common. We kind of keep our options open, right?
Well, yeah, and it gives you the kind of freedom as well that when you sign a contract, yeah, you're under contract, but then when you're not under contract, you have no, you can travel, you can do whatever you want, right? So,
Yeah.
well, maybe not travel so much now with the current state of the world, but anyways, no, I've never went any length of time without being under pretty regular contract.
hmm
So,
Now, what's
but
your what's
the
what's your
fact that I was saying about teaching welding, the welding component
Mhm.
to an apprenticeship, I just find that one thing that really has cemented itself for me, even though I've been in the trades for a very long time, because I started my welder fitter program in '98, so that was 22 years ago. A lot of things have changed, but one thing that's always remained the same and will always remain the same is how I find that welding is just such a versatile skill and transferable amongst so many other trades because like I said, the welder or the plumbers have to know a bit about welding. Like millwrights and steam fitters and sheet metal
Mhm.
guys and automotive, and there's even a welding component to the carpentry apprenticeship. So, along with teaching some of the post-secondary students, I also have taught a lot of apprentices as well, and it's pretty cool, to think that I weld and that's my trade, but yet it is so transferable, and so many other trades need to know a little bit about welding too. So,
So do you still get out on the tools? You still weld?
well, there's been small jobs that I've done for people, little repairs and stuff like that, but mostly my welding is showing students how to weld these days by when by the time I add up my hours amongst all the colleges, it's a lot to keep me busy. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, mostly it's just instructional type welding, but I do small repairs on the side.
And what's your best weld? What's the one weld that you can throw down and probably no one in the room is going to do a better one?
Well, it's hard to say because there's a lot of good welders out there. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'd want to say that, but I do hold a lot of tickets, and but I think that a lot of people's best welds goes back to the first process you learned, and I feel like a lot of times people are best at the first one they learn. Like I personally love TIG welding a lot, but it wasn't the first process I learned. It was stick welding, like probably most people. And I still to this day love stick welding. I love my all position stick welding. I love it. So I'd probably say that as your answer, but I also love TIG welding a lot as well.
Yeah, like I have done enough TIG, but I'm not a TIG pro. It's not my gig. I worked heavy industry, and in heavy industry, you don't do any TIG. It takes way too long. So like for me, it was always like I'm a stainless guy. I always thought I could lay down some pretty wicked stainless speeds. That's always fun. We actually have competitions in our college amongst instructors. We do a throwdown every year where we compete against each other to see who can do the best. It's fun.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. My boss always wins, and he always holds it over our heads because he welds the least of all of us. The program head, he's never on the tools, but he's just got this innate skill that just it's. So Doug, if you're listening, I hate you because that's not
if
that's not
if you
fair.
have the knack, you have the knack, right? But the question is, who's the judge? Who judges all of your pieces?
Well, we actually get students in on it to help judge, and we have rubrics made up, and we actually change the weldments every year. So like we kind of pick random welds, verticals, and different metals, and try to keep it fun. And like last year was an aluminum TIG in there that killed me. I'm not very good at aluminum TIG, so
Oh, it's fun to keep it interesting. It's
it
all
is.
in good fun, right? Amongst instructors. So that's
Yeah.
cool. It's a good idea too.
So now that you got these projects, you're teaching in two colleges, working product development with a third. What's your passion now? What are you working towards going forward? Are you settling in as an instructor, or you got kind of some big ideas coming forward?
Well, a passion project of mine that I have been working on for the past few years to get it kind of established is the Nicole Leclair Welding Bursary Award.
Hmm.
So that's really been my passion project for the past few years. So I essentially set up a kind of like it's basically like a small foundation. It's a donor advised fund where I donated a bunch of money to get it started. And then my intent was to donate the return on investment that I received from it and donated it to students. Oftentimes, like over the years, I've been invited as a guest with the Canadian Welding Bureau to some of their events that they've attended, and I've gotten to witness a lot of awards being presented and to help these students. And I feel like, gosh, like I really feel like now that I've been in the industry for, like I said, over 22 years, and I feel like it's really important to give back. And I thought, that's what I should be doing, and how can I do that? So it took a while to establish it, but eventually it all fell into place. And this past September, so last month, for four students that were pursuing welding at the post-secondary level in Ontario, I was actually able to give them each $2,000 to go against their tuition. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, and so who is open to your scholarship or your bursaries? What's the process? Is it your colleges alone, or is anyone across Canada able to get in on it, or what's a little bit of the
Yeah.
process?
Well, thanks for asking. And I don't want to leave you guys out over,
In the
out
West?
west, but maybe one day it will be open to everyone in Canada. But for right now, anyways, for the first 2 years that it's been open, has been to people in Ontario, just Ontario folks. I feel like there's a lot of, post-secondary colleges here, enough opportunity where I'd be able to help just these folks and keep manufacturing in Ontario as much as I could for my province, because these people who are going to go and get educated will hopefully then get a job in the same province, and then they can give back, and it'll be a whole cycle. But for the first year, so last year I was only able to give out $1,500, and one student won that. But I'm happy to report that I've had a bit of industry sponsorship helping me out, and who believed in my project, which meant a lot. And they agreed to sponsor me some money to go along with my money for this year as well as next year and the year after. So they've agreed to a 3-year term. So because of that, I'm going to be able to probably offer again next year for $2,000 bursaries.
That's awesome. I know our CWB Association in Regina, we have set up a 10-year cycle of bursaries that we set up for students. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to manage that. And luckily we have sponsors that have stepped up and help us even with the management of it. But to do it on your own like that, that's some big cojones there.
Well, thanks. It is time consuming, but it's a labor of love,
Hmm.
and it is something that's going to go on in perpetuity. So I had to think about, yeah, I'm here to do it now while I'm still on this earth, and but what's going to happen afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have kids. I wanted something to be my legacy, and so I teamed up with the Canadian Welding Bureau, and they have agreed to perpetuate my bursary long after.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm glad the CWB was able to step up for that. And I guess for the people coming up in Ontario, look into this. There's an opportunity for you. I was just talking to a good friend of mine down at the UA, I believe. It's the Ironworkers Hall in Toronto. Wow, what's the number? 721, I believe. And they said that they need welders so bad in the Toronto area right now that they just put a Kijiji ad out looking for welders. They're so short of welding.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So for people listening across Canada, if you guys want to work in Ontario, hit up the iron workers out in Ontario. They're looking for workers like crazy. They said they got at least a year of work if you're willing to go out there. And, for the young welders in school, there's bursaries and scholarships through CWB, like CWB and Nicole herself and the foundation. So, I mean, we're trying, right? Us older people that have been out in the industry a long time, we're trying to support these young people coming up because, like, we need you. We need you to support the industry.
Absolutely. And maybe the numbers have changed, but the last one I heard was that for every 10 people that retire, these baby boomers all retiring out of the industry, there's only one person coming in to replace them. And technically that one person coming in is new and doesn't have all that experience. So it might not even truly equate to one, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So
I'm a Gen Xer, and of my Gen X age group, there's not that many tradesmen, and so everyone kind of went to university, and they're all, sadly now with the turn with COVID, a lot of my quote unquote educated professional friends are unemployed or struggling, and luckily most of my trade friends are still working. So this is a good opportunity now with the retirements. COVID's really pushing now the turn of industry. We're going to need a lot of young people coming up.
absolutely. And this is my small way of just trying to close that gap and trying to get more educated, skilled welders out there to fill in the gaps. And
So what are
like I said, it's just been a labor of love for me. I always like to plug Arnold Schwarzenegger's 6 Rules of Success.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've heard them before, but number 1 is to trust yourself. Number 2 is to break some rules. Number 3 is don't be afraid to fail. 4 is ignore the naysayers. 5 is work like hell, and 6 is give something back. And I felt like that was my 6th rule of success for Schwarzenegger. I feel like I've come full circle now, so I've been able to give back, and it makes me really happy to not just give these students some money to help them with education, but to keep in touch with them and find out where they go, and if they need a mentor in their life, to reach out to me and ask questions and stay in touch. So I didn't have that when I was growing up because I didn't know anyone else that was a welder. I didn't know anyone else to reach out to ask questions to. So, I think that probably would have helped me a lot when I was younger going to school.
That's such a key point that you make there, Nicole. I was at a function last year where I heard a guy say that it's called wisdom hoarding, that the boomers are wisdom hoarding and they feel almost attacked by young people coming up. And that is the collapse of mentorship. That's the opposite of what mentorship should be. People with experience, people that have been in industry, management experience, or really, really good shopping, whatever you have, you should be excited about sharing what you know with the young people coming up, because it helps everybody. It helps the industry, it helps your own job, it helps everything, and it makes you a person that people can trust and use as a network and connection. And that's huge. The community for welding needs to grow, not shrink, and the only way it's going to grow is if the people that are at the top step up and share. You know what I mean?
I could not agree with you more. Absolutely.
And I totally know, like when I was coming up, there's, the people in the shop that had been there, they're in their 50s and they've been there 30 years, and you'd ask them for help and they'd be like, "I'll go figure it out yourself." And that was really frustrating as a young person trying to learn in a shop. And I unfortunately didn't go to school for welding. I just went and got a job at a shop because my dad was a welder, and then I challenged. And that's a much more difficult route, let me tell you. Going to schools where it's at, now that I teach it, it's like, geez, what a waste. I wasted years struggling on the floor, not getting proper mentorship.
Well, that's too bad, but I'm glad you persevered.
Well, what do you do? I had a couple kids really young, so that was always the horn in my back that kept me going. So
Yeah, well, see, I got dogs, not kids, but
They,
that's why I set up the bursary. And the Canadian Welding Bureau, they host the landing page for me every year. So
oh,
the
awesome.
application process is hosted through them. So when the application gets sent in, they receive a copy, I receive a copy, and then I just pour over all the applications for a month and make the announcement. So for now, they're kind of helping me in that regard, and eventually many years from now, after I'm no longer here, they will continue it on into perpetuity until the money runs out. So,
Which
yeah,
hopefully never
that's
happens. Hopefully it lasts forever, right? So,
yeah.
all right. So we're coming up to the end of the show here. Do you want to give some details specifically about how to get to your website and your information and contact stuff like that?
Sure. I can recite the website is www.easydonate.com/Nicole Leclair. So, and that's EASYDONATE.com /Nicole Leclair, spelled as I'm sure you'll have it marked in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And although the website says Easy Donate, I don't want people to think that it's like a GoFundMe or something. I did donate a lot of money to get this thing started, but it does also accept donations. So if you are an individual or a company out there who wants to support the cause, you can actually make a donation through the website as well, if you so choose, and then you'll get a tax receipt. And it just kind of helps my cause. It's going to happen regardless, with or without the extra donations. But if you feel like that's something you want to help contribute to as well, you get a tax receipt, and the more that it grows, the more students I'll be able to help.
Awesome. So all the homies and homettes out in the Ontario area, if you guys got businesses and companies and you're looking to give back and find a way to do it, please reach out to the Nicole Leclair Foundation. I'm sure it goes to a great use, and it sounds like 4 $2,000 scholarships out this year, which is fantastic. I mean, that's amazing. So, is there anything else you wanna say to the masses before we end the show here, Nicole?
Oh, well, basically just that, if I guess I'd like to speak to the people who are thinking about it and not sure, maybe, it interests you, but you're afraid to take the step. I just want to be that person and say, just try it. Maybe start like with something that I did and take a night class, because you never know where it will take you. Look where it took me. I never thought in a million years that by taking that night class, I would be where I am today. So just try it. You don't know unless you try, and you're probably going to wind up having a really great time and not be sorry at all. So that, and also to other female welders out there, I feel like young people coming into the industry can't be what they can't see. And the more great representatives we have out there doing what they do and just being strong role models, to keep doing that, and like you said, to educate the younger folks. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, so I love the message. I know myself, I am honestly a little disappointed this year in our intake at the college at how few women are in the courses this year. We're down from other years, which I'm not sure why that happened. But for the women that are listening, follow through. If there's a piece of advice, follow through. Don't be happy just being at the bottom. You might be the best welder in the shop, but gun for the supervisor job, gun for the management job, move up. We need more women at the top, right? We need more women business owners. We need more women instructors. We need more women at the top, because those are the prestigious jobs that give people inspiration. And that's really the best way to get the numbers up, is we need more female roles that are inspiring. And, I'm doing my best, but as a male, I'm limited. Nicole, you're killing it. That's what we need, is we need women like you. So awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks. I think we represent about 9% of the welding population right now.
It is, and of that 9%, it's less than 0.5% that is management.
Oh boy, yeah, not surprised, but it's a sad state of affairs. Maybe one day, but what can we do? But just do the best we can, and hopefully, if more women, get involved, hopefully those numbers will go up and up. I know I'm doing my part to try to encourage anyone, male or female, just, encourage youth to get into the welding trade.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Nicole. It was a pleasure having you here. Maybe I'll check in on you in maybe a while, see how the foundation's going and how everything's going. And I'm sure I'll run into you at CWB events. I'm usually at all of them. So I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah, I hope to meet you in person someday too.
Awesome. Well, take care, and thanks for listening to the CWB Association podcast. Check us out on Spotify. Please hit share and hit like. Get our numbers up. It helps with our sponsorships. It helps with our visibility. So if you're listening, please make sure you share it and use the social media out there. All of Nicole's information for herself and her foundation will be also up on Spotify and all streaming formats as well as YouTube. So take care, Nicole, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to the CWB Association Welding Podcast with Max Ceron. If you enjoyed what you heard today, rate our podcast and visit us at cwbassociation.org to learn more. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or suggestions on what you'd like to learn about in the future. Produced by the CWB Group and presented by Max Ceron. This podcast serves to educate and connect the welding community. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.